Welcome to Nameless Debate Radio, where radioactivity is contagious.
Okay.
Oh shit!
You can quantify it specifically, okay, because that's what the word is for. But if you use it generally, like infinity as an object, then what you mean is something that has no limitation. And that's what religious people meant when they introduced the fucking term.
Oh.
The idea that it was co-opted into mathematics is only due to the fact that at the time we didn't have any better language for it. It was pretty fucking close.
So just to clarify then, if I count the multiverses, I could count infinitely.
It's
no, because there's no way to count multiverses because you can't get out of your own. The point is that, theoretically speaking, there are an endless number of logically possible universes, and all of them exist.
And if I counted them...
You couldn't fucking count them! How many times do I have to say that?
But how do you know they're there?
But if I could
you can
count
deduce them.
It's like counting the real numbers. Like, if you try to count like as high as you can go, right, you can't really get there.
Yeah, and that's just one level of uncountability.
And
we go like
levels.
several levels at least deep that we can easily describe. For instance, rational numbers, any number that you can make up with by putting two whole integers in a ratio with one another, so like 10 over 5 or whatever. That's not a good one because it doesn't give a decimal, but that's the point.
7
right?
over 3.
All the decimal numbers, essentially. All the decimal numbers, which are things that you can make with ratios, like all the easy decimal numbers. Basically, you get those again in between every single natural number. So if you think about the fact that the natural numbers are endless, then between every natural number, there is another endless set. Because there is the set of rational numbers.
Yes.
And it's a bigger set than just the first endless set.
It's more uncountable. It's deeper.
So there are some things that you can count infinitely?
No. How are you getting that?
I thought that's what you agreed to.
No.
What does more?
There are some things you can't count.
What does more uncountable mean?
It means
it's
more,
uncountably
more
infinite.
levels of uncountability.
Was it Synthril?
It's deeper.
Weren't you asking about?
Was it me?
Somebody was saying, "Can you?"
Well,
count
all right.
something
Here's an
infinitely?
example. Let's say we take like
What was
the
the original
positive
example?
integers. Let's say we take the positive integers.
I get that.
And we start
I just
from
wondering
0.
about usage. I
You start
understand
from
that.
0, and you count up one at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is an infinite set because you'll never stop counting. But if you point to any positive integer, no, it's considered an infinite set.
Yes, it's called an infinite set, but it is more technically and accurately.
Well,
sure, but I mean, like no mathematician will say that. So, like, eventually, if you point out any positive integer, you will eventually reach that integer. Now, if you were trying to list all the real numbers, I guess, and you start counting like 1, 2, 0.3, 0.25, there are numbers which you will never get to, even if you count for an infinite amount of time. So they're uncountable.
Like square root of 2, you're
and
saying?
there's no method by which you can use. Yeah, or numbers with like an infinite sequence, right?
Like pi or e?
Sure, yeah. They're like that might be a number you don't get
1,
to.
2, 3, 4. Like.
So you're saying that you will count infinitely if you were trying to say the whole number?
Not only will you count infinitely, but there are certain numbers which you will never list. Like you will never speak them, no matter how long you count.
Right. The list.
That's not true for the positive numbers, right?
Because that means there's no end to it. It just continues, unbounded.
Yeah, endless, unbounded in one direction.
Okay, so I see. So it's about the
That's why I said both directions. You can go both directions.
No, you can't. The natural numbers start at 1, mate.
No, there can always be something before it.
No, 0 isn't a real number. It's an abstraction.
By definition,
you're not listening.
That's where they start.
Natural numbers are different from the real numbers.
Yeah,
they're just a different set. Another way to think about this is that natural numbers you can go from 0, 1, 2, whatever, and like
0 is an abstraction. They start at 1.
Does it start at 1? So think of what the smallest number, like if you could use decimals, what's the smallest number just right above 0?
Or 0.0000000.
Like
endlessly.
Decimals.
Yeah, you can't even count that, right? And so that's a different level of like fucking.
Oh wait,
counting.
Can't you?
Right.
Don't we have a term? Don't we have
an infinitesimal?
Yes, and don't we use what do you call it? like the calculus and the D in calculus for that?
Yeah.
A derivative.
Yes,
I'm
the
not too
positive D.
sure.
It's like a delta. It's the smallest change in a single direction. That D. It's like the derivative
I
delta.
I
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, I mean that's what
That's really
calculus is
interesting.
kind of
I
about.
haven't had that explained to me.
Infinitely small.
It's the sum of all infinitely small like changes. In
Right.
the
Yeah,
proof
yeah.
is-
Like
is
I know
to
what
it.
infinitesimal. Didn't
Oh,
understand
that
exactly
wasn't
how it
you.
worked. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's like that's why I described the slope. It's like you go the smallest amount of distance in the y direction, and then you try to map it to the x on the line, and then that's how you get the slope.
Yeah, it's a really good explanation, Vivi.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the proof of limits is how they get to that using infinitesimal stuff. You can like look this shit up, but unless you're a mathematician, there's probably not a lot of reason to.
My point, though, is that they're endless. They're infinite only in one direction, which isn't what infinity means. It's not correct to call it an infinite set.
It's probably not
It's a
correct to
set.
say
Of
it's
course, it
incorrect,
has
though.
limitations. It's a set. Of course, it has limitations. By definition, that's what a set
Well,
is.
you're, like
A
you're
way to
describing
limit
that
the data.
Infinity has like one
Mhm.
strict definition or something, and that seems kind
It
of.
has a dictionary definition. You can
But
specify it. And listen, you can specify it in context, but if you contradict the dictionary one, you're making a mistake.
But
It's
math
that
also
simple. It's
defines
the law of
infinity.
non-contradiction.
That's
Math
back
also
to
It's the
defines-
law of non-contradiction.
But no, like math also like defines it. Like jerk has its own definition for us
No,
humans. We say
infinity
someone's a
is
jerk.
close. It's close. It's not technically right. And in fact, the way that it isn't technically right means that it is an exact opposite of what's right.
What is
Okay,
an
because
infinite set?
No.
infinite finitude is nonsense. That's ridiculous.
calling
By
someone
definition, that is nonsense.
calling someone a jerk means something different. If I say, "Hey, you're a jerk," right? When in
Mhm.
physics, it's the third derivative of position with respect to
Yes,
time.
you can
Yes,
say
that's
like
context.
Well, that's just kind of what math is, right? It's all just context.
No, math is precise language to eliminate contextual knowledge by making it explicit.
It's
That's the whole
context
point.
within math. What are you talking
No,
about?
it is explicit, making explicit all of the context so that everyone can reach the same conclusion. That's what math is.
Yeah,
That
and in the
doesn't-
context of using the word atom, etymology
Oh,
doesn't
God.
matter.
Are you serious? Wrong. Again, just
Mm.
invalid.
Mm.
The law of non-contradiction says that statement is false.
Well, that's not the definition scientists would use would not violate the law of non-contradiction because
Wrong.
when scientists say
So wait,
atom, it's
I would say
So wait a
okay.
minute. Using the word indivisible to refer to something divisible
not
doesn't
using the word
violate the law of no. Listen to me. Doesn't violate the law of non-contradiction. Is
That's
that
a
what you're
straw.
saying? To me?
No, that's a
No.
straw man. That's
That
a
is
complete
what
straw
atom
man.
means. That
But
is
that's a
what
complete
atom
straw
means.
man.
No,
My-
it's fucking not.
I'm a
He's
scarecrow
not
now.
using
What
the word
fuck?
indivisible.
It's
He's
not
using the
even
word,
etymology. Okay?
He's not using the word indivisible. He's using the word atom, which has a
Atom,
meaning in
literally,
context.
no,
Yes,
atom.
literally,
Listen to me.
Literally,
The
I've
general
heard you say
definition
the
of
same
atom.
thing,
Is
and
You're
now
not
you're
listening.
ignoring the
composed
fact that
of
you appealed to
protons.
context for the meaning of a
Jesus.
word.
You're not
I'm
listening.
appealing to the same
We heard
context
what
for
you
the meaning of
said.
a word.
2,000 years
And
ago,
you
it meant something.
and you made a straw man
Wait, can I
immediately.
wait, hold on. I think so math is its own language. Can we agree on that?
Yes, it's a technical language.
Yes, it's its own language. So that means the word jerk in mathematics and the word jerk in English language is completely they're
Correct.
they don't mean the same thing because they're different languages.
No, but here's what they do mean: is that all instantiations of the word jerk have something to do with the general definition in the dictionary.
No.
Always. That is how words work. That's
Okay,
why
so-
you pick one over the other.
Okay, so the word jerk in the English language has two different meanings that are completely
So
different.
let me give you an example, right? If
Yes.
I'm a jerk in person,
Mhm.
it's as if I've jerked something away from you physically.
Oh.
And that is similar again to the jerk that we mean in physics.
Okay, I think that makes sense.
And you can do that with every word because that's how fucking words work. Ask a linguist. Can't
Yes,
believe I have to have
I-
this fucking argument.
I definitely agree with you.
How do words work?
All right, so the
They
words work.
always have something in common, which is the general dictionary definition. Every
Not all.
instantiated version. Yes, always. That's the idea.
Yeah, that's what they try to, but not
yes, obviously, but that's good language. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
always. I agree with you.
It might be like
Yeah, so why are you arguing for bad language? It just
I'm
seems
not
ridiculous,
arguing, I'm arguing that
especially.
there is bad. There is such a thing as that happens
We're arguing
Yeah.
there is
where we
bad
do have
language.
bad language.
Yes,
have
but when it
imprecise
happens, we should
language.
try to eliminate it.
I
Isn't
agree.
that accurate?
No. That's
No,
not
I
So then,
true.
yes, we should, Synthrill.
No.
Yes.
No.
I
Stupid.
think
If we're trying,
Yeah.
if the
To make it
if the
fit.
aim of science is to clarify the world, we should rid ourselves of unclear language. To say otherwise is preposterous.
Well, you have to, like, that has more asterisks. Like, yeah, we should do this barring all other options or something. Like, no matter how much,
you
like, it's
can't
like saying
contradict
US should
yourself.
switch
It's the
over.
fundamental principle of truth.
You're saying like why doesn't US switch over to metric, right? It's like a better.
You're not listening. No, that's a different idea.
You're
That's
not listening. You
consistency.
can't
Where,
even-
no,
Could you
that is
please help us?
consistency.
You know what?
Where both
Let's
are
try this
appropriate.
argument. How about you like give my argument and see if like you've been listening? Because I feel like I
Okay,
understand. where you're
yeah,
coming
okay.
from,
No,
but
I can
don't
do that,
feel like
alright.
Okay.
Like, okay, so why doesn't the US switch over to the metric system? Because it would make them more consistent with the rest of the world, because the rest of the world already uses as such a system, okay? And I would say they should, but they don't have to, because ultimately it is a lot of effort. But that is people's conventional use of something. When we're talking about a technical language, which is what science is, what mathematics specifically is technical fucking clarity, okay? If that's what the aim of the fucking language is, then you'd better not be telling me that contradictions are
No, I
fucking
want
okay.
you to like make my argument
That-
for
no,
like why
that-
I believe science should
just
have
it.
like the word atom, not
No,
for like
your
the metric
argument
in
is
the US.
stupid. I don't agree with it.
Well, I'm asking you to be able to, state what my argument.
I
kind
don't
of
understand
is.
it. You're just saying that it should be because that's how things are.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of effort to change. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fucking dumb argument.
Why?
Because that's just you saying my habits are good enough. Yeah, okay. Why not try to improve yourself?
Because it's really fucking hard. And people have other
Oh,
things to
that's a sore fucking sob story. I don't care. Try harder.
do. Well, how much money would you give up so that we could switch over to? The
I don't
metric?
fucking care about that specifically, okay? I care that science, the act of making sense of makes fucking sense.
How much money
You
would
trying
you
to
give
tell me that it's
rewrite
no,
every
shut up. That's a non
textbook?
sequitur. That is a non sequitur.
It's not. It's directly related
It
to the
is.
issue. You want something
It's
to
not.
change. It costs money, time, and effort.
I don't
and
care.
that
I'm
needs
not
to be
advocating
respected.
that I
Then you're
fucking
making.
change.
Then if you're not advocating for change, then we
No,
don't really
I'm not
there's nothing to talk
advocating that
about.
I should be responsible for making it change. I'm saying I think it should change. Other people, in my opinion, should agree, and if they do, then it will change.
It's like
It's as
a lot
simple as that.
Okay, so
Yeah, that seems like a sucky response, honestly.
so
It's a lot of
Well,
effort.
being a person that
you don't actually
speaks
want to happen change. That's fine.
Okay,
I feel
man.
like
If that's
you're
what
not
you
actually
think,
arguing.
it's a lot of effort for you. Then you can keep thinking like that. I don't care.
Then you don't get anywhere. If that means
That's
Like,
not true. Most people who care about clarity have a conversation with me. But if you don't care, then I don't care to talk to you because it's a waste of my time.
Well, I
We
care about
don't
making
share the
people's lives
value.
better.
Listen, we don't share the value that makes it productive for me to engage with you. So I'm not interested in having any further discussion.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. I care about improving people's lives. You don't have to share that value.
Yeah, if you think that that's more important than what's actually true, then I
Yeah.
think you're sorely mistaken, my
Wait,
friend.
how do you know what's true?
Yeah, that's
I don't.
exactly
I
what was
don't.
going
But we should be
What?
aiming for it because the whole point is that if you think you're going to improve other people's lives and you don't even have a true understanding of the problem, the chances that your solution is going to be any good is fucking nil.
Well, performing science is pretty like okay for some metrics of things. So
No,
I don't know. it
pretty
seems
much
pretty good.
science is the best way
I
of thinking
mean, it's
about
not
the world.
even
Most
science. It's
people
just
It
a
is-
matter
it-
of like what you think is likely true, right? And
It's an interesting
to go
one.
about that,
Science
you
is
have to
a
have
way-
like a method, and
Yeah.
is that method functional?
They should have
And
let
so
you
if
talk.
that
for
Well,
method
an
isn't
hour.
Does it
functional,
produce valid
then you
conclusions?
shouldn't really be talking about that in any way. People should treat that seriously.
I agree with that. Methods should produce valid conclusions, and I don't think yours does. Yours is laziness, and I don't appreciate it. You shouldn't be telling other people that we should be lazy about how we speak.
Well, you should
Bullshit.
be.
We
Who
should
was
be just
saying
getting
that?
upset about
We should
sounds
be
that come out of
careful.
our mouths.
That's
I
a
didn't
You
strong
hear
should
man.
anybody
be
say that
careful
anybody should be lazy
about
about
what,
language.
what you're saying.
I didn't hear one
means.
person
The
say that.
words mean something.
That's strong
The
man.
words mean
Anybody
something.
say that?
It's not. Synthrill
is a
said
strong man,
it was
'cause-
too much effort. He said that.
It
That's
is.
verbatim.
What was too much effort?
He said that being precise in your language, even in science. So, for instance, thinking that we should change atom to something that isn't literally contradictory. Okay, he says that's too much effort, and I say that's the whole point of science. If you think it's too much effort, that's you being lazy, and I don't
Well, I
agree.
don't think it should be changed. Everybody
Well,
knows
that's
what an
your
atom
opinion.
is, but everybody
I
knows
think
what an
that-
atom means.
Oh, well, okay,
The
so
whole point of science is accuracy. What is wrong
I
with
don't
you?
think
It's
that's even the whole point of
not
science,
true.
but
Wow. All right.
Science isn't just about accuracy.
No,
Also,
I
actually-
actually, I actually
Discovered.
strongly agree with NSYNC. As far as like accuracy goes, I do believe that like accuracy in terms of describing how the world works in terms of models.
he said
I
that
do
was the
think
whole
that
point,
is
though.
the
I
point of
think there's
science.
more
It is the whole
to
point.
science than
Science is
Yeah,
for what we use
yeah, but
it for.
I actually do think that like okay, so accuracy in describing the world per models of reality is, I think, the entire point of science.
I agree
can-
with that. And the whole point of science is that we can use those models to do what we want to do better, but that relies on their accuracy.
We can measure things down to like 10 to the 17 or 10 to the negative 19 volts of accuracy with like our like flawed definition of atom. I don't think that
So,
like suddenly changing
that-
it is going
That's
to.
a non sequitur.
it's not even a
Well,
flawed.
you're saying that we've
definition.
That is a
you
non.
have a
That is a
better
non
word.
sequitur. I'm saying
What do you mean it's
science
a
is
non
about
sequitur?
being accurate.
No, he's
Science
saying-
is about being accurate. That is what it's about.
Maybe
I'm saying
maybe
there's no
if you
need to
could
change
finish
it.
what he was saying
Yeah.
without you
Why
saying
not
it's a non
change it?
sequitur.
It should be more accurate.
Our
It's
best
not.
definitions, like, or sorry, our best measurements are like so fucking precise. It's like a billionth of a
So?
centimeter of accuracy, and that like would not be improved if we changed the word atom to smorgasbord or
okay,
something.
that
It would be
Yeah,
less
it's just
confusing, for
atoms.
instance, foreign person learning English, what it means.
I
For
would agree
instance.
with
Oh,
that.
I doubt that.
Oh, I
Oh,
agree
you're
with
What
that.
fucking
about
wrong.
genetic
You're
Guys,
fucking
codes?
wrong.
I think the
Okay.
question is okay. I think the question
You're
is,
wrong.
and this is like,
Ah.
do we want to be as accurate as we possibly can?
Yes,
right? Like,
that's what
so
science
we
is
could call
about.
it milk. We could call it milk, but like, what's the most useful way to
Right.
go about describing what we think? And so we just use that to
It's-
actually get.
Right, I
That's
don't say
interesting.
hand me
I
a
wanna
bottle of
point this
No,
out.
but like,
H2O.
I
look,
want to
look,
point
I
this
say
out.
hand me
real
a
quick.
bottle of water.
One second. In sync. You said that if we change the word atom to something else, because atom is confusing to somebody who doesn't speak English or something to that effect.
Mhm.
it's confusing in general. It's just that
Well,
people who
it's
don't
only
speak English
confusing-
notice the confusion. No.
No.
People who
It's
don't
only-
speak English
listen.
notice the confusion.
No. So it's only
Wrong.
confusing to somebody who doesn't know the meaning, right?
It is literally illogical. Do you not understand that? It's illogical by definition. It's
Well, I think-
contradictory.
Well, according
That
to
is
whom?
illogical.
So you think
According to- one
contradictory things
second,
can
Xbox.
exist?
1 second.
I know.
One
Of course
second.
not.
No,
He's not
it's
saying
why
like,
would
the
you
conversation is about language, not what
Right.
doesn't
Right.
exist.
in sync? Your complaint is that somebody learning English or somebody who doesn't know
No,
what
that's not
atom
my
means.
complaint. That's an example. Do you understand what an example is? That's not my complaint.
Dude,
Your
I'm
complaint is
just
that it's
saying something.
inaccurate, right? And
Yes,
I'm saying
correct.
part
It's
of your complaint.
illogically inaccurate. It's not just inaccurate,
But
it
that
is
only-
illogically inaccurate.
So that would only apply to people who have any kind of understanding of the etymology of atom, right?
Which is how
So
people
to
learn
somebody-
a language.
No,
That's
that's
not how
not
I learned
true.
about it.
No.
No, it's how
When
people
you
who
learn
already know a language.
No, when you learn
Yes.
a language, you don't necessarily
Wow.
learn about the origin of the word. You learn
Wow,
what the-
really?
what
Okay,
the
so let me
correct-
tell you. Let me just tell me
I'd
how
like
much
to be able-
experience do you have teaching
I'd actually
language?
like to be able to finish a sentence if you could maybe restrain yourself.
I just wanted to know what your qualifications were on teaching languages, man. How many have you taught, and who have you taught them to?
What's your
Why is-
qualification
Well,
for
well,
it?
okay,
That's actually
Hey.
what's called a non sequitur.
Right.
No, it's not. Okay, you're talking about
And
what people do to
sequitur?
learn languages. What I'm telling people who
Yeah,
are teaching
wouldn't-
languages,
I wouldn't
to
have
those
to
who don't
apply-
know them,
I wouldn't
do
have to-
teach
I
them the
would-
roots of the words.
I
They
would
do.
not-
That's
I
a
would
language
not-
learning technique.
I would not have to have taught the language to know the procedure of teaching a language because I could have been a student of the language and had it taught to me. Correct?
I don't think you understand me. That's
I
not
don't-
relevant.
I don't-
languages all the
The
time.
Oh, that's
only
not
way-
relevant. Really?
The only, listen to
Are
me.
you
I'll
serious?
explain why. I'll explain why. The
I'm gonna-
only way.
actually, I'm
No,
gonna
listen.
finish- I'm
You,
actually
no,
going
you
to
just said
finish.
something and then you questioned my response.
This is all.
You said, "Are you serious?"
This is all a red herring.
No, you
I'd
said,
like to
"Are
actually
you
finish
serious?"
I'd actually like to finish
Right,
my
yeah.
original statement, right? That when people learn a language, they don't usually learn the etymology
That's
of the
not true.
language.
How do you know?
Oh, I thought I
How
was
do
going
you
to
know?
finish.
I just want to
thought
know
I was
how you
gonna
know.
finish-
Dude, can
I
you
thought I
like,
was going to finish a sentence before
you
being
yeah.
interrupted. Okay? So if I could continue, people learn languages, they learn the modern common usage of a language, not the origin of the word, not what the word parts mean. That's
Can-
the way
can I-
languages
can-
are
can
learned.
I
Oh
ask you
my
a
god,
question?
how the
And if-
fuck would
and-
you know?
Well,
Wait, can I
I have a
ask a question?
How many? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
Because I have experience in learning languages.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you think the
Do
process
you have
of learning?
experience teaching them?
It's
Do
irrelevant.
you have? Yeah.
No,
what
it's
is
not. It is a technique of learning a language to learn the roots. It works for a fucking reason.
Also,
But
I
it's
never
not
learned- I
necessary.
never learned any
That's
roots
why
of
it's
It's not
irrelevant.
irrelevant. No, but the reason that it's relevant, it's the context that you're learning from to begin with. That context wouldn't exist unless it had a meaning.
Okay, I
Not
have
in
a-
the context of
No,
the
it's
word.
usually
Yeah.
done with like you show
Evie,
someone an
what's up?
apple and you say apple and like you
Okay,
get
so-
into
So
sounds.
listen.
and-
I think actually the consistency of what were they called again? The linguist, like the definitions of parts of words.
Yep. This meta language of languages.
Etymology.
Etymology.
Oh, etymology
Yes.
is the history of words.
Okay, so I think that actually, even if it's not taught consciously, subconsciously, your mind is making these connections with what these words mean and what certain parts of these words mean. And that, so for example, whenever you have an A at the beginning of a word, you notice that it has a correlation with negating what the rest of the word means.
Exactly.
And when you have, yes, and when you have, so even like we're taught certain parts of etymology and like what certain things mean. For example, the ing at the end of a word, we always know that means it making something a verb present tense, but that's actually literally taught to us. But there's other aspects of
That's just
words
grammar,
that,
though.
yeah,
I'm actually curious.
No, but it's not. Grammar is something that evolved as well. It all evolved together. All of it's important. Without the semantic, technical definition of the word, which is something that evolved through a process we track using a science called etymology, we wouldn't have the meaning we do today.
Yeah. How would you define the word abuse in sync?
This conversation.
All right, so AB,
The functional definition.
Abuse. Yeah, I'm
ab is-
asking in sync.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, I would probably say that ab is another way of negating a word, and use is something you do with something. So if you abuse or abuse, then what you're doing is you're misusing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is
How's
that?
that, buddy? How's that? No. Give me another one. Yeah.
What does ab mean here, though?
It means it's a
To negate.
negation in this word.
You abuse things,
A
and if you
negation.
abuse them,
Yes. Do you know what that is? It's a logical term.
Yeah, I don't think that that's what this means here, but
That is what it means.
a negation. A negation
Yes.
abuse?
Oh,
Yeah.
gee. Yeah, obviously. Think about it.
Yeah, I am thinking about it. That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense.
So,
Actually,
like-
it makes sense to everybody else. So
well,
I don't
no,
know
if
what
I
you're
don't
you're
think
doing.
that's
drunk
true.
and you abuse alcohol, that's not you
literal-
not using alcohol.
Yeah, I don't think
It's
you're
you
using the word
misusing
negation
it.
correctly.
It's you
Yeah,
misusing it.
well,
Right,
misuse
it
is not the
negates it.
same
No,
as
no, no.
not
It
using.
negates
Negation.
it. It negates it in a different way.
Okay, what's the negation, please?
The negation is that you usually use things positively. That's the idea. You use things to benefit you. That's the whole point of using them, right? Misusing them is in a certain way to use something for what it's for to not benefit you. That's misuse because use is supposed to be useful.
It's the ab that means like to be negatory.
I don't know. Negatory just sounds like a weird way of describing it.
Yeah, so it just
Sure, but I imagine like most people also don't talk about etymology.
Most people, like even illiterate
Okay,
people, can teach
so
their
I actually-
children how to speak and what
wait.
language is.
So
And
I
I don't
think-
think they have any history of etymology in their educational background. So I'm not entirely sure why you think that,
That
etymology is
is
necessary for
a non sequitur. The etymology.
I didn't hear you. Whoever just spoke a moment ago.
Sorry. You said that like, hey, what are your teaching credentials? Like, what the fuck? And I'm like, and when the guy made a claim that most people learn through like context, not through like etymology, and you're like, what the fuck is your teaching credentials? And it's like, well, most people in human history didn't have an education in etymology, and we learn languages from them, and it's kind of evolved from that, right?
So I
You
think
learn etymology subconsciously. That's what contextual meaning.
Yeah, I didn't feel the need to beat that dead horse,
okay. So what was I
but
gonna
I
say?
demonstrated it pretty
So
well.
so back. I want to go back to the abuse debate because some people here were saying not using, right?
The negation of you.
Yes, but the thing is,
of using.
Yes, no. The thing is, abuse is not saying use as in like using something. It's use as in its usefulness.
I mean, that's a description of a negative. It's a description of a negative. So it's
So
a
if
description of
it's
something that is functionally to one's disadvantage opposed to one's advantage.
So yeah, I just wanted to put that point out. So for those who are stating that it would meant not using, I was just trying to clarify that use is different from use.
Only in use.
And that no. Different base specific word. It has a specific context, which is what Vivi just said, and that's exactly why the etymology matters. Everything that you use, all the words relate back to the general definition somehow. They're instantiated with specifics, but they are generally consistent with the definition in the dictionary.
Although I will say, like, I'm like, if I'm being completely frank, I'm not even convinced of that. It's more like I think that people go off of like bits of understanding that they experience, and then they use that to get by in their lives.
And I think it'd be appreciated that all those experiences and stuff correlate to the same roots. That would make things easier to understand.
Well, which is exactly why communication has the form it does.
Well, the thing is I don't know if people do like correlate those two roots, even unconsciously. I don't know if they do, because I don't trust that people are that capable.
Oh
Well,
no. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, here's an interesting for you. Did you know that on language learning forums on Reddit, there's like this weird phenomenon where some Muslims who learn English renounce their religion in connection with learning English.
Oh yes, that's I actually read into that. So it's like the language that you think in actually influences how you the thoughts you have.
And if you think about it, then if you think that
so a lot of that's actually work originally by Professor Noam Chomsky, which essentially was this link between language and psychology, which is like a true thing in terms of like how you process ideas.
Definitely.
However, there's also this is also worth explaining. There is a lot of like variance in terms of how people develop ideas that can also show up between that, and that's not like saying that Chomsky's work is wrong. It's just saying that like we have to consider that as well.
I can't believe that you think that scientists don't know what the words that they're using actually mean.
They don't.
They do.
They
There's
don't.
a reason
I
that
talk to
science is
scientists.
effective.
What's your
There's a
education?
reason
Well,
science.
okay,
So do
okay.
you. Everybody talks to scientists. What are you talking about?
Hold on,
I am a scientist.
Shrel.
What do you
I
want?
mean, like, if anybody, okay, hold on. If anybody is like a competent scientist, they obviously know the general denotative of like the language they're using.
Fucking
Otherwise,
A.
like, I mean, they're not like a worthwhile scientist. Like, if you talk to a scientist that does not use that, then I mean,
Like Sean
they are
Carroll?
not somebody. Yeah. Well, they're not somebody that like people should actually like take serious.
Like Sean Carroll?
I agree.
I think you're saying all
Yeah.
scientists know Adam means like
I'm
non-divisible.
saying if you, as a scientist, don't use precise language, I don't respect you as a scientist. You don't make sense properly. You clearly don't understand the definitions of words.
Like Sean Carroll?
Yeah, but that's like fine.
No, it's not fine with me. You can think that. I don't associate
Sorry,
with people like
lost your
you.
respect, but we're gonna be too busy conducting groundbreaking experiments to. Really
If you
care
say
about that.
so, man, I'm sure you'll be.
Yeah, but okay, it's a fair point to like most like scientists understand the denotatives of words, and when they publish papers, that's actually checked. So
Yep.
Can you speak, JHC? Can you speak?
Hello?
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to hear your voice. And if you could share some words. There's a lot of confusion going on up in here.
Well, open your hymnals to number 420.
Yeah, somebody said Chomsky was a hack, for one thing. Or I'm paraphrasing, but
About what?
I don't know. I wasn't listening very closely either.
I don't know that anybody said that, but okay.
Yeah, like I said, I'm paraphrasing. I'm reducing it to a sound bite. It's mostly just to prompt the discussion.
I mean, if somebody did say that, then they clearly are irrelevant to this conversation.
Hey, thanks for the fun. I'm out for the night.
All right, take care.
Y'all too.
Later.
Why do you care about other people's credentials when you're supposed to be a credentialed teacher and like learning?
Oh no, he was just talking about.
Specifically linguistics. You made a claim about what it is that people focus. Oh no, JJ did. He made a claim about how languages are taught that was false. Languages are taught with etymology. It's an effective
actually
method
also
of
not what I
teaching
said.
kids. It's historically what we
But
use.
that's not what I
We
said.
taught kids
No,
Latin
that's not what
roots.
I said. Are you just a straw man factory?
Well,
or
okay,
what?
well, if you say so, man. But this is being recorded, so we'll see what you said.
Yeah, well, what I said was that people
I
don't
heard
learn
you.
languages that way.
That's
Not
wrong.
People,
People do wrong.
Historically,
that's
people
not what-
are also
that's
not
what
You're
taught
speaking
I
for
said.
all
etymology.
people. Are you
So that's
speaking for
not
all
what you
people?
said. So that's
Are
not
you
what you
speaking
said.
for
I
all
said.
people? Are you
So-
speaking for all people?
I
So
think he's
that's not
making
what
more
you
of a
said,
claim
I
about
said.
just people themselves opposed to like all people.
So what you
Historically,
said, I
languages-
said.
No,
What you
you're
said,
making
I
up
said.
nonsense, man. Listen to
So
you.
what you said, I said,
Oh,
was
keep
that
repeating it.
languages aren't taught that. Well, I have to because you keep interrupting me.
Yeah, that's why you
finish
need
a
to repeat
sentence.
yourself. You're
Yeah, I
right.
can't finish the sentence when you're talking.
Uh huh.
You said that I said that languages aren't taught that way.
Yeah, that is what
That's
you
not
said.
what I said. No.
That is what you
just-
said. Hey, you're on record saying that. I heard you.
You think there's no difference between that and what I really said, which was that people don't learn languages that way?
That's the same thing. If languages are taught that way, then some people are learning them that
So
way.
teaching and
Obviously.
learning
Listen,
are the
listen
same
to
thing.
me. Yes, teaching involves learning. Duh.
So you're just saying that
Yeah, but
teaching and
there's two
learning are the
different.
same thing.
Hold
Not
on,
in
hold on.
America.
It
There's
just
two
seems
different
like a sloppy
processes.
use of language to me.
No,
Wait a
you
second.
made a claim about all
there's two
people.
different processes. There's like the process. Okay, so if we treat this seriously, there's two different things. There's the process of actually how we understand what people use to like communicate with each other, and then there's like other ways people go about that. So essentially, you have that process, but that process varies, and like that depends a lot based off of like what people respond.
Okay, so I think on the learning aspect, we definitely learn the roots. I think that our minds automatically make these connections
I agree
between.
with that.
Historically,
we-
people
what
didn't learn from
automatic-
roots.
Well,
They
we
learned
do.
from
No.
context.
I could
No.
because
What
I
automatically
don't
makes
because I
connections?
let me finish because I don't I honestly don't agree with that
I don't either.
inherently. Let me
It's
finish.
intuitive.
I think that
It's
people
intuitive.
do a lot of both depending on the
Yeah,
like,
but that means that you
particular
have to
individual.
do one. Like that's what I mean. Is we're saying people do learn at least some of them sometimes with the roots. That is a way people learn. That's a fact. The fact that people use other methods is irrelevant.
What?
But that's not what
People
like.
learn
It sounds
using
like you're
roots.
making
They
a
do.
more
Some of
general
them do.
point than that. You
No,
you're making
that's
more
what
of
your
a thing where
language
you're saying
means.
that learning at the roots is like the
Maybe I'm
most proper
wrong.
way to learn, and actually we kind of disagree with
In
that.
sync,
Like, you
maybe
just
I'm
say that some
completely,
people
maybe I'm
sometimes, some
completely
places
wrong,
use roots.
but I get the impression from the others that what they are suggesting is that like they believe that you are saying inherently people learn from
That's not what Vivi was saying, and I
from
just agreed with him.
etymology.
That's not what Vivi was saying. Vivi was saying he thinks we do it automatically. Okay, we're not saying there's
Do
not
what
other ways
automatically?
to learn.
That means
We learn from the roots.
Learn from etymology.
You would
automatically.
have to know what the roots are.
okay.
Yes,
So
but you
yes,
automatically identify them. It's in your brain. It's intuitive.
Not if you don't know what the roots are.
yeah,
You
but
don't
like, you
have
know,
to be taught consciously.
Mhm.
God,
Will someone
What?
explain what's happening?
no
Okay,
one
so-
has to call it etymology for you.
Okay, so I'll explain a little bit. So you learn the word invalid, and you know the word valid, and you know the word, for example, valuable. And there's the word invaluable that came up, and you learned it, and you're like, okay, now I can make the connection. In means something, a negation of a certain thing. You don't know this consciously, but your mind automatically makes that subconscious connection.
Has any of
And-
has any of the research been kind of brought to bear on this topic?
Oh, there's plenty of research on how the mind works. The neural networks make connections in order to make relations and make sense out of the world around us.
What are the two prevailing mechanisms here?
Okay, so there's a process of making those connections or destroying some connections based upon the neurons that are stimulated and the positive and negative reinforcement that they get out of learning.
Right. And so that's the associationistic mechanism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Chomsky argued against it, right, with a classical computational view.
Okay, can you explain that, elaborate on that?
The associationistic model of learning is that things that are in constant conjunction in time or place, they tend to be highly associated with each other. So that's one mechanism of learning. The other mechanism is Chomsky's internal, what's now kind of called the language of thought hypothesis, which is that there are computational mechanisms waiting for data, and that these are anti-associationistic mechanisms, that we already have the grammar, the structure of sentences built into our brain, waiting for the data to come in so it can arrange it.
Is this before we learned how sentences work, or do you that's something that just genetically produces that?
It's like it happened when we evolved languages. We had languages for a long time. Like you have neural programming that intuitively understands languages to some degree because you're good at making sense of the world. That's what you've evolved to do best.
I see.
And we've communicated for a long time.
Well, I mean, so this is a live debate. We have no idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are regions of the brain that are roughly associated with language, but we don't have a computational model of how the brain works yet. Not a word.
But we don't need one. We don't need one.
Well, I mean,
we can observe how people actually do learn language, and like historically, it was taught with roots, Latin roots. That's what kids learn.
Learning roots
Historically,
doesn't.
it's also taught without roots.
So
no, but my point is
that
it clearly can be learned with roots. That's all I'm saying, because JJ said he made a generalization, which was people don't learn through etymology. That is factually incorrect. Lots of people do, and you're learning through etymology.
That's not what I said, though.
I mean,
it
seems like
the fact that no one is calling it etymology doesn't mean anything.
I mean, okay, you can, like, fine, you can might like make some small point like that. It's like, yes, people can learn
A
using
small point.
It is.
No,
like,
that was what the whole argument was.
Let me put this in better context.
If that's like if that's like the whole entire thing, then that, like, who the fuck cares? It's like such a small.
Because
small
JJ
thing.
said that etymology was just unimportant, and you said you're too lazy.
I said that etymology was not important in the context of the word atom, and that was your example.
Interesting opinion, because I don't agree with that. It doesn't follow.
Because
you haven't been able to explain why it does.
In your mind, it's an oxymoron to use the word atom.
It is an oxymoron by definition.
Literally, yeah.
In my mind, what the fuck are you talking about?
Why? Well, I'm barely talking.
It is literally an oxymoron. It's not my opinion. It isn't my opinion.
I don't know why you can't restrain yourself from talking over people.
I don't know why you said it was my opinion.
It is your opinion.
What?
No, it's not.
It is.
The fact that it's an oxymoron is a category of word. It does fit that definition.
Do you? So anyway, I said that etymology didn't matter with respect to the word atom and its meaning.
Why? I'm just like curious. On what basis?
Why didn't it matter? Because its etymology is contradictory to what its common meaning is.
Well,
its modern usage meaning.
That's that's probably not like a correct thing to say. Etymology isn't contradictory. It's like a historicity of something. You can't really like.
No, it's not like that. Historicity is how reliable fact in history is. It's got nothing to do with history.
What? So so that's what I said.
Wait, so I know what atoms are, but I don't know what the etymology of atom is.
Okay,
you know what atom means.
What's that?
Do you know what atom literally means? Not what it refers to usually.
I don't know what the etymology of it is.
What it literally means is indivisible. Now, since we have subatomic particles, that's an oxymoronic name, is it not, by definition?
Well, I probably have a different theory of what oxymorons are than...
oxymoron is something that is contradictory in the name to what it is. That's how an oxymoron is defined.
I understand that's how you use it, yes.
Does
didn't
anyone
wanna
in
go
like
there.
modern
What's the
culture
difference?
say like, "Hey, that thing's an atom"? Does anyone ever like say like use the word atom as to mean like something's indivisible? Like,
Yes, that's how it was meant when it was
So-
originally.
anyone knows?
Classic-
I have
So,
to
No,
one second.
Listen, listen.
One
If
second.
you know, if you know the history of
I'm
science,
sorry. I'm like to disrupt this conversation. Okay, so first of all, it is true that people do learn things through different means. However, it is worth saying that atom is actually from the Greek, which does mean to be indivisible.
and
because
it was-
because essentially,
They
so
thought.
so it means to mine, with a, and a in Greek means to lack. So it means like it means to lack, to cut, because you can't obviously divide something.
Yes,
So-
and it was proposed by the first Greek philosophers, and that is relevant.
And it's not an oxymoron. It's correct.
It is. It's not correct.
Matt,
A subatomic
Matt, hold on.
particle.
Why are you just say I'm
Matt,
wrong?
Hold on, JJ. Matt, you need to stop over talking.
Okay.
This is really like I've been listening for like 10 minutes. You gotta, please. Just
I'm
take
go-
it down.
I'm going to explain why it's not an oxymoron, because it's true that atom describes something that's indivisible, but atom refers to an element, not the constituent parts of the element. It's the indivisible substance, say gold or silver. Gold or silver cannot be a smaller gold or silver. The smallest unit of silver or gold is an atom.
That's actually a nice point.
It's an atom of gold. It's not an atom.
Okay.
There is a difference. It's not generally.
Wait, did you just say atoms of gold aren't atoms?
no, it's an atom of gold, as in that's a proper use, but atom itself is not like a thing.
Just one more time. I'm a little slow
Like
on
an,
the uptake.
sorry, an
Okay,
atom
so-
of gold is indivisible because you can't have a smaller unit of gold.
Are
right? That is the
atoms of
smallest unit
gold-
of gold.
Are
That-
atoms
so, like-
of gold atoms?
They're a
It
type
is.
of atom. They're not
Okay.
generally
They
atoms.
are atoms. Okay, good.
They're not atoms in general. They're not the philosophical atom, and which is how it was proposed.
Like, for instance, I would be the smallest unit of me or something like that. And that would be like an atom of a human or something. You can't divide me in two and get like another
It's
number.
worth. So it is. I just want to mention it is saying that it did have like atomism, which like then led into like the scientific view of atoms. But and I'm just saying this for some context. But the two are very separate in a lot of ways in function. It's just that one inspired the other.
Yeah, atom is the indivisible amount.
At the time, we didn't think there was such a thing as subatomic particles. That's
So?
why we called it an atom. That's why.
Well,
And actually, gold, you can't have a gold atom. Gold is like a... No, sorry. That's a bad argument.
yeah,
The point is that it is, yes, and I recognized that, okay? The point is that atoms, in general, mean indivisible, okay? And if you have subatomic particles, then in physics, to call it an atom is an oxymoron.
no, it refers to an indivisible
physics.
amount of something.
No, that's chemistry.
of a
That's
substance.
chemistry. That's chemistry. In
Just-
physics, gold
but-
is chemistry,
Yeah, and in physics,
is motion. Particles exist in physics,
So
not
what's-
chemistry.
so what's an atom in physics?
An atom in physics is a type of particle, but it's not an indivisible one,
What-
which is why it's not an appropriate name.
What type of particle is an atom in physics?
It doesn't, like, there's no,
I've
we
never
don't
heard
have
this
a good...
usage before.
Well, I'll tell you, in physics, we don't.
I've never heard this usage before.
Wait, no, but in physics, we don't like categorize atoms based upon like their number of protons and neutrons they have inside the nucleus. It's rather based upon we don't even categorize them. We just say there's protons and neutrons and electrons, and we just call the collection of those an atom.
Yeah, it's an indivisible amount of a substance.
But
An
the thing,
element.
like that substance is not part of physics. It's more of the field of chemistry.
Well,
Yes.
it depends what you're talking about. I mean, these like physics and chemistry isn't well defined in some regions. Like nuclear
Yes.
physics definitely deals with gold. Like I don't know.
No,
what
but the
fuck.
point is that in nuclear physics, you split the atom, and that should be literally impossible if it's a good name.
I mean, if you use it in its 2,000-year-old usage, sure. but that's
That's
not
what.
what
No,
we-
that's its current dictionary definition. It's not 2,000 years old.
Well, I don't know if like
Generally.
that matters so much. I mean, like,
Well, I
I
don't
think it
agree with
depends on what
dictionary-
dictionary you
I mean,
look
the
at
dictionary
too.
is
I
just a
think
collection of people putting words
It
together.
doesn't
I don't know
depend
why
on the
that.
dictionary. That
Why?
is such a bad argument.
Why?
It is not just a collection of people putting words
I'm-
together. Dictionaries are determined by the words that people actually use. That's how
Yeah,
dictionaries are
like the
constructed.
word we used for an indivisible amount of an element.
Yeah, and then if we then went on
Which
to
is
discover
atom.
that it wasn't indivisible in physics, then in physics, atom is not a good name.
It's a great name.
It's not. It's a contradictory.
It's not contradictory.
It is contradictory.
But things have technical usages, right?
And that's what confused me when I went to say that there's no such thing as an atom of gold, because atom in physics actually means something different. Okay? It's a size of particle, and it doesn't make sense to call a size of particle indivisible unless it actually is the indivisible element, the smallest
Yeah,
particle.
when is atom used in physics that way?
I just told you, that's what it's for. It is the thing above subatomic particles, and that doesn't make any sense.
No, in physics.
Yes, in physics, it doesn't make sense to use it like that. That's exactly what I'm saying the
Yeah,
whole time.
and so the way you do use it in physics is what?
You don't until we know what the smallest particle is.
But we do.
Oh my
but
goodness.
we do. Whoa. The question is currently how do physicists misuse it, right? And what does that categorization mean? Is it well defined, and is it like communicated correctly across like the field or something?
Well, physicists use it in a certain way, and they take it to mean what they use it for, but literally it means something that is in a direct contradiction to the fact that there is a subatomic particle.
You said two different people arguing over its usages, though, right? These are physicists
Subatomic
versus...
particle is an oxymoron.
But
Okay,
physicists use it...
like divide indivisible.
Okay, so yeah, Synthrill, you were talking about how so that means in physics the definition doesn't work, but I think you're gonna say something along the lines of, but in chemistry that's perfectly fine to use atom as it is.
Or no, like in physics and chemistry, whatever. Like they have technical definitions, they have technical meanings that are like vastly communicated that are well defined and repeatable across the whole entire field, across
Is this
multiple
the
cultures.
laziness argument again?
Well, it's not the laziness argument. It's just like this thing is well defined in the field. Like everyone knows what you're talking about when you say atom in physics. Everyone knows what you're talking about.
So it's not worth the effort.
Well,
to
you're
change.
saying that like the atom
Not
means
needed.
something in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and
It
the reason why it's important is
literally
because you're
has a.
you're saying
It's
like
not
there's nothing
necessary
about
to
the
change
word.
it.
Look, there's nothing about the word atom that literally means indivisible.
Oh,
It's just
Yes,
something that
there
we
is.
can-
What the hell
No.
did you just say?
It's a fucking sound that comes out of
No,
our
there
fucking
is
mouth.
something about it. The fact that that's what humans used it for. That's what about
But
it
different
means.
humans are using it collectively different in a homogeneous way.
Not in a homogeneous way over time.
Well, physicists have been using the word atom in a homogeneous way over time.
No,
to
I don't think
communicate
you
an idea.
understand. Physics came from natural philosophy. Natural philosophy
Choose
is
your
where the word
timescale.
atom was proposed. Natural philosophy is where the word atom was proposed. Physics is a development of natural philosophy. That's where they got the word. And it's not appropriate if you're not using it on an indivisible
In the
piece.
past, like 100 years, people have been using the word atom to mean
It is
collection of
philosophically
nice-
illogical. It's as simple as
But
that.
scientifically, it's logical
What's
because
that,
they
Jason?
know
No,
what it refers to.
scientifically, it's common. It's common. It's not logical
It is
in any
logical
sense.
because atom doesn't mean what you
pragmatic.
mean philosophically.
Incorrect. Actually, meaning is something that
Did you
spans
listen to
over
what I said?
history. That's
You
what
disagreed with
etymology is.
yourself.
No, I didn't.
Don't be
did.
shy, JC.
You did. You totally
Could you
did.
explain?
Just talking over each other. I'm just whatever.
It is
You
annoying.
have to listen to like things I say, or else you're not having a conversation, right?
Yeah,
I'm
that's
trying
not
to make a
what we
good
said.
faith
You just said that
effort.
I went back on what I said. Could you explain that?
I said that the physicists were using it in a different way than fucking regular people were in the past 100 years, and you said no, they aren't, which implies you're using it
No.
the same way. This is what
I think
happens. You
you
just talked over me because you
misunderstand.
weren't listening to what I was saying, which is
You told
not,
me what I said. Do I not get to reply?
I don't know why you would. 'Cause
Like,
it seems like
I
it's a
don't
main
consent to
point.
your interpretation.
No, that's
That's-
literally what happened, and it's only because you
Yeah.
weren't listening to what I was saying, because you're too busy
No,
trying to
I
get your own points
listened.
out and not
I
having
don't
a, like,
agree that
collective
you
discourse.
represent. I don't agree. You represented me correctly. You didn't. I don't agree with that. You may think you did. I don't. I am a better judge of what I meant than you.
I can only repeat to what you said. I can't repeat to what you meant.
So what do you think I said? Explain.
It doesn't matter because it just means
Oh,
like because my whole entire intent to bring this up is to say that like we're talking over each other. We're not having a productive discourse because we're not trying to understand what the fuck is like going on. I actually have a real issue with this, and you seem like someone who could actually like solve this because you actually care about this topic. I could almost care less, but since I don't know. But since you actually do care, I'd like to actually get some clarification here. Like, why is it wrong for physicists to say this set of ideas is what an atom means to us, and then why is that like a wrong thing for them to do? And it seems
It's
like
philosophically
it's contradictory.
invalid.
Well,
No, it's philosophically invalid, and you have to understand that science is not separate to philosophy. Science is actually a philosophy called logical positivism, more commonly known as empiricism.
What?
That's what empirical science is.
Hold on. Can we
how
take a
is
couple
someone-
steps back here? So, for one, if we're going to be semantic sticklers, concepts aren't invalid, right? Arguments are. Only arguments can be invalid.
Names can be invalid.
What are you talking about?
Names which do not consistently apply to the thing that they describe are invalid. They're contradictory. They violate the law of non-contradiction, which is a fundamental principle of
But
thought.
in physics, Adam points to these concepts consistently. Like it
No,
points
it
to certain
doesn't.
concepts consistently.
Remember,
No, it
THC,
doesn't.
invalid
You go
literally
across-
means something probably different than what you mean it to mean.
If you go across
It doesn't
different,
refer to them consistently.
if you go, it does. We're talking about.
I can explain to you how it doesn't.
You're saying
Atom,
what you're going to
literally, no, the literal definition, as in it's a language, okay? It has a word, it's a word, has a general definition, and then words have specified definitions in different contexts, but all of the different contextual definitions share the general definition in common. It's somehow the general definition instantiated specifically. That's how words work.
I disagree.
I don't know if that's
Well,
true.
I don't
that's
think
wrong.
that's true. I don't
Give
think
me an
that's
So-
example. Give me an
I'm-
example.
For example,
I
let's
can't
take the
even-
word. Let's take the word water.
Yes.
If you do cross-cultural studies, people use water to refer differently all the time.
No, they
For
don't.
example-
In
No,
other cultures,
Matt,
water
Matt,
isn't
let
just
him.
used.
Matt, let him
Yeah.
finish.
Right.
You have a
Right.
genius in your presence. You should listen. Go ahead, Jason.
Well, whatever.
A
But
God among men. Go ahead.
the point is that people overwhelmingly use water to refer to things like pool water or sewer water, even though they have lower percentages of H2O. And they won't call things like lemonade water, even though they have a much higher concentration of H2O.
Mm-hmm.
So if water is supposed to be something like water is H2O, then that fails. So the general consensus is that the definitional theory of semantics is probably just wrong, right? Everybody
so-
thinks that this is wrong. What's
No, not
a
everybody.
more realistic
Hmm.
what's a more realistic theory is that kind of all bets are off. And
so,
meanings of words just shift across cultures, across uses, across disciplines.
All right.
And trying to find something like a general definition that holds across them is just going to be a
It's
waste of
interesting.
time.
Like you said, you gave examples, and all I said was that all of the instantiations have something in common with the general. Okay, so you gave 2 examples of water where water is the fundamental substance and there are other things in the water, and then you gave an example which was lemonade and said lemonade has much more water, but the purpose of lemonade isn't related to the water in it, it's related to the lemon. It tastes different because of the lemon. If you wanted to drink water, you would, and that's what water in the context of drinking means. It means water. So if you don't mean water in the context of drinking, if you mean something that has water in it, you don't use the word water.
Right, exactly.
And fancy
So
that.
sometimes it is, sometimes sewer water is water, right? And
Book
No.
means
sometimes
cool.
I
Book means
wasn't
cool.
agreeing. I wasn't agreeing with you.
Some
no,
like
I'm telling you that the way people actually use water shows that there's nothing stable. There's no general.
That's not true.
Well, then what is it?
I just told you, sewer water and the other type of water that you mentioned, the focus of it is that there is something in water, right? Sewerage travels through water functionally. That's why we use water, okay?
Wait, hold on.
In the functional, listen,
meaning of
if in the
water is what?
functional sense,
Just
listen to
give me
me.
the
If in the
definition of
functional
water,
sense,
and I
I
want to
wasn't
test it.
finished. It means containing H2O, depending on what you're using it for.
Containing an H2O.
No, listen to me. Listen to me. If you say sewerage water, you mean water plus sewerage, okay? If your functional reference isn't to do with the water content, then you won't refer to the water. Okay, so if you're drinking and the functional content is drinking something, so a substance to drink, then you refer to water only when it is actually just water, and anything else, for instance, cordial, which is mostly water, is cordial because there's another substance that changes it from water.
And you think that that is going to capture the general meaning of H2O across all contexts? So the definition that you gave me is water is that which contains H2O depending on its use.
No, I said it contains H2O, and whether or not the water is brought into the name depends on whether or not the water is part of the functional differentiation that we use.
And what is the, hold on, okay, good. So we have one necessary condition contains H2O, right?
Yep.
Contains H2O. No,
And then whether or
you don't
not-
have any statement about the amount? You don't care
No.
the amount?
No,
Okay.
the amount's irrelevant.
Okay, so contains H2O, and then what? What's the
And
next
then-
necessary condition?
Water comes into the name only if water is directly related to the functional significance of the thing.
Explain. I'm not really understanding that
We're
part.
defining
Okay,
water.
so sewer water, for instance, right? Sewerage travels through the water. The water is functionally significant. When we're talking about getting a drink of water, right, then the water, the substance, is different from other substances you could drink. So there's a functional distinction to call it water. And then even though cordial has a lot of water, you call it cordial because that is
Okay, great.
functionally different for you. You may like
But I'm not
cordial
really
more.
understanding. So the first one is contains H2O. The
Yes.
second necessary condition of water is that it travels through water, or it's
No,
functionally
I didn't
significant
know.
to water.
No, I
right?
didn't say
In the,
that.
in
I
the case
no, I
of
didn't say
in
that.
the case of
So he's
sewerage,
saying
I didn't
so,
say that.
So with regards to like how he's seemingly defining water, I believe it's in relation to like how people often contextually use the term water. So like if you do say that there is sewer water, for example, in this analogy, you would say that there's sewer water because you're denoting water and you're denoting sewage. It's to show that there's a
yeah,
difference.
but that doesn't help me because I want to know what
No,
water is. So saying it
I
travels through
understand
water
that.
doesn't help me.
I'm saying that the significance of mentioning both sewerage and water is that both of those are functionally part of the process of moving sewerage. And in the sense of drinking, when only one substance is involved, we refer to water only when it is pure water, and anything else that contains water isn't
We're still
water.
just trying to define
Whereas
water.
yes, I know. Water is just that one condition, contains H2O,
Thank you.
okay? That's how you use water. Okay, water in its general definition is H2O, and if you're going to make compound phrases to refer to things with water in the name, then water has to be functionally significant to the
So I saw
noun.
my cousin playing The Witcher 3 the other day, and his hero healed by drinking H2O, or was drinking
Yeah.
water. Was the character in that video game literally drinking H2O, or did they misname it?
No, it's a symbolization of H2O because in games things aren't real. We represent the way things are in real life with imagery.
Okay, so
and
I'm
words.
going to change my contains H2O to contains H2O or something similar to
No,
H2O.
that's not. No, again, I don't assent to that. That is.
Okay, so was Geralt drinking water or no?
No, it was a symbol for water. Are you saying that the
No,
word
I'm just
water
asking
is...
you a yes or no question.
I'm asking a question, okay? Yes or no? Is the word water made of water?
No.
Oh, it's a symbol that represents water.
But I think,
Fascinating.
but I don't know why that matters. But if somebody
because
says,
that's exactly what it is in a video game.
if
It's a
somebody
symbol that
says,
represents
is it
water.
true that Geralt was drinking water? I would say yes.
He was drinking water in the game, but it wasn't
Correct.
physical or chemical water.
I didn't
It was
ask if it-
symbolized water.
Okay, so he's
There's a
drinking
difference.
water.
There
but
is
it's
a
not
semantic
H2O.
difference. No, we're arguing about semantics. The point is that it symbolizes H2O.
So it is true that Geralt was drinking water.
He was drinking. He was shown to be drinking what was proposed to be water.
But
it wasn't.
You're answering.
He wasn't
a different
actually
question.
drinking
You're offering a
chemical
different
water.
analysis.
No, I'm saying that you're talking about a video game.
I know what I'm
Obscure the
talking
scope.
about. 'cause I
You're
brought
trying
it
to
up.
obscure the scope of your example. I'm saying in a video game, it's not actually water, but the name that we use to refer to things inside the scope of video games refers to a symbolization of something that people mean and not the thing in the real world.
Geralt drinks water to heal. Is that true?
Are you
or
saying,
false?
like, is that an argument that you would make about books? Like, I just don't understand. When people say in a story, you know, Fred drank water, did he really drink water? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's
Man,
He drank water.
no, he was proposed to drink water. The story could be fictional. How do you know he drank water? He didn't drink anything. It's fiction.
You're asking
It is
about a
fiction.
different. You're asking
No,
about
it's
a
true or
different.
false.
You're asking
It's
about
true
a
or
different
false.
proposition. Yeah, it's
It's
true.
true or false?
I mean,
Yes. So
I'd say
in
it's true.
fiction,
It's true.
in fiction, it's no. If it's fictional, it is by definition false.
No,
What?
it's not.
Fiction is that which isn't necessarily true.
Hold on a second. Hey JJ, was Harry Potter male or female?
I'm a gender
Proposed
non-cognitivist.
proposed to be male.
He was male, right? Would
Well,
I
he
be
was supposed
speaking
to say,
falsely?
yeah.
Would I be speaking falsely if I said Harry Potter presented as female?
You would be speaking falsely in the
bad one.
context of what
if
is
you
true in
said-
the story.
If you said Harry Potter was a cute little wizard boy, you'd be speaking truthfully.
Yeah.
If you said
pretty
Harry
easy,
Potter was a
right?
cute little wizard
Yes.
boy in the story, that is how you qualify it to make it true.
JJ, did he go to Hogwarts as an adult or as
Okay,
a
fair enough. But let me just say, I believe Harry is actually a cute wizard girl, and let me tell you, I smashed that Harry puss.
Alrighty.
I know
Oh, it's
that's
gotten
relevant
icky.
to like what virtually everybody's saying, but I wanted to make that joke.
Like,
'cause
it seems like. Sorry to interrupt.
In sync, if I gave you a glass of urine,
Hmm.
I could just call it water, right?
People
I wouldn't
often
accept
do.
it.
What?
I
People
wouldn't
do.
accept you calling it urine.
You wouldn't accept me calling it urine?
Not if I knew it wasn't. No, I don't accept that kind of thing.
I want to make the urine water analogy. Can you help, JHC?
Well,
Okay, so
I'm getting kind of confused
I
because
think-
sometimes we have one
Can I ask
necessary condition and sometimes
Can
we
I
have
ask
more
a-
than one necessary
Okay, so I
condition.
think
Can I ask a falsification question? Like, if I came up with a word that had a schism where the word's meaning was nowhere near derived from its like origin, would that then just like falsify the belief where all words have to have a meaning to the origin?
It would make it a new word. You couldn't say that it was a schism from the old one. Like, how would you make that claim? Explain that. Justify that claim that it
Give
was
the
connected
example
to
if you
the
have
old-
to.
But that's
So,
a
like,
different. Hold on, but that is somewhat different.
Yeah.
like
they-
in texting, like because cool auto corrected the book started to mean cool. Like maybe
What?
they shut this off. This was a thing. Like it was like a thing like 7 years ago or something. For a short time, book started to mean cool.
No,
among
that's
kids.
called a meme. That's called a meme. That's
No.
called an imitated phenomenon. Humans do it all the time.
Okay, so I think what causes a little bit of confusion is that the difference between using a word or a root to reference something and the necessity of that root to being something that means the same thing. So I think here,
I
like,
agree.
yeah, because like what we're saying, what Instinct's saying is not everything that has water is necessarily going to be having the root water. There's other things that, like for example, lemonade. Lemonade has to do something with lemons. Obviously, also has to do something with water. But what is more significant to us in our language, and how do we define it, is based upon like what we find more important
Which is
to us.
kind of what I said with the word functional significance, with the phrase functional significance, is that lemons are more functionally significant in differentiating from pure water than the water in the lemonade is.
Yes, so like if something has water in it, doesn't necessarily mean we have to include that root. It's just that if we want to define something, we just look at something that relates to it, and we use a root that means like you said is more significant to us.
And in fact, like if you look at an ingredient list, it says it has water in it. It's not like hiding the information.
What does lemon mean anyway?
It refers to a fruit.
Wait, well, like
It's just a
you want
generic
the?
name.
Are you saying the roots of lemon? I think lemon. I'm pretty sure MON is something, but I have to look that
It
up.
came from a word called limon, which was just a collective term for fruits of this kind.
Interesting. I will also
Compare with lime.
I'll also note that lemon has other roots in other languages as well, so it could have come from a different language entirely.
Yeah, it could mean the mountain, I think.
So the fruit of the mountain, that could be possible.
Or just the mountain.
Where are you getting that from?
I'm not. It's just speculation. No actual evidence. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Well, lay being an article and mon being a root of mountain.
No, because then lay is separated from the other
actually,
word.
it's actually Arabic. Okay, so
Yeah, I saw that.
Yes.
Like-
and I knew that too because I
make-
speak Arabic.
To make lay denote an article, it has to separate from the other word.
Okay, so I have to figure out what limun means.
I think Jake
traces back to something that means lime.
Oh no, but no, I mean like lime. Where would that come from?
You have to ask the Sanskrit people.
Mm-hmm.
I think JHC was in the middle of an investigation. Were you interrupted there, JHC?
I think Vivi clarified it honestly because it's pretty clear that whether or not we use water in the name of, like in the noun that we use to refer to something that contains water, depends on whether the water is more or less functionally significant than other elements.
And we use atom to mean the smallest divisible piece of an element.
True, and that's why it's not appropriate in physics.
And that's why it is appropriate.
Wrong, because we have subatomic particles.
But that's not speaking about the smallest amount of gold. That's speaking about...
That's chemistry again. I told you, there's a difference, okay?
No,
chemistry
there's really
isn't
not
relevant.
much different.
Wow, okay, that's an interesting opinion, but you're fucking dead wrong.
No, it's
How's
really
that
not
wrong?
different.
Chemistry and physics are completely different disciplines.
Well,
Go get a
depends on-
get
depends on the
get a
context of
chemist
the
and a physicist.
comparison. Depends on the comparison you want to make.
Listen to me. Get someone who
I don't
studies
need to listen
chemistry
to you.
in a professional capacity. Get someone who studies physics in a professional capacity, and ask both of them together if they study the same thing.
I don't know if
or
I've met a
even
more
if
pedantic
they're
person.
similar. Oh my god! You just said something that was completely false, and you call me pedantic for correcting you.
You're saying the two professions aren't the same, which is not the same thing as saying physicists don't get to define gold or chemists don't get to define gold or something, which is
No,
kind of weird.
I said that physics and chemistry have different technical languages, different uses of words. And that's a fact.
There's a lot of overlap too, and they would
So,
use the same
they're
word to
different.
mean that they would use atom to
No.
mean the same thing in
No.
both. Just
Yes, but it's appropriate in one and not. That's the whole point.
There is some overlap in the meaning of atom in chemistry and physics, but they both define them in different manners. So
I don't think they do.
They do.
well,
Physics
yeah.
refers to particles.
Mhm.
Chemistry refers to substances. Like that. That's a fact. There's a difference. There's a difference for a reason.
Yeah, I think in the
What does it have to do with atom, though?
No, but like if
Well,
you
I
open up
already told you.
if you open up a chemistry book and you open up and look at the in the dictionary or the glossary of what an atom means, they'll say that's like the smallest substance, the smallest particle in which the properties of substance is still true.
Yes, and then the other one is the smallest particle in which the property of physics is true.
Wait, what?
Chemistry, like the atom in chemistry.
I heard that
right?
part.
The one that
I
you're
heard
talking
that
about.
part. I heard
Yeah?
that part. And
It's
you
the
said
smallest
in
part of
physics-
chemistry.
And you said in physics what?
Physics
It's the most.
Physics, yes, physics. In physics, it's about a particle that contains subparticles of electrons and neutrons, and is neutral, obviously. As in, it's not an ion. It has the same number of electrons as protons and neutrons. It is the collective particle of the subparticles that make it up.
Yeah, so then we say that makes
And
the
you're
name
saying
atom
there's a
inaccurate.
distinction between
No,
particle
I'm saying
and substance.
yes.
What's the distinction?
The distinction is that the bits inside the atom are particles too.
Yeah. So
Yeah, what's the distinction though?
I just
between
told you
using
the bits inside the atom are still under physical law. They're physical things.
the use of but the use of atom in physics refers to a particle.
That
apparently.
isn't indivisible.
So you say.
Yes, but it's not indivisible. It's not an indivisible particle. The particle that is referred to by atom is divisible.
yes.
Yeah.
So yes. So
Yes, that makes it
That's
inappropriate.
irrelevant.
No, it's not. It's contradictory.
You're back on that. I'm saying what's the distinction between the definition of atom, which
In
uses
physics-
the term particle,
It's a
in
fucking
physics, right?
opposite.
And What?
Okay, so avoiding the etymology aspect, like the strict the difference in definitions is in chemistry. It's talking about the substance that cannot be broken down,
Right.
while in physics, it's still talking about the same particle. But the thing is, this is not defining it in the same fashion. It's defining it as the makeup of the constitutes that of the subatomic particles. For example, the neutrons, the protons, and the electrons. It's defining it from
It's
another
not
aspect.
really.
They're talking about the same thing,
Mhm.
right? But the thing is, by the chemistry definition, it is an atom. It is indivisible because if it was divided, it would lose its properties.
You're saying
In
that
physics,
in physics,
yes,
an atom is referred to as a particle, apparently.
it's a collection of particles.
It's a type of particle and a collection of
That
particles.
sounds better, but that's not what you said to begin with. And I wondered what the distinction was between the definition of atom in physics, calling it a particle, and the definition of atom used in chemistry, calling it a substance.
Substance follows the rules of chemistry. Particles follow the rules of physics. Substances have to be made up of at least one atom of one element. Particles do not.
So they're still really defining them the same way.
No, yeah, they're defined as in they're both defined, but
Yes,
one
so-
of them isn't indivisible.
Yes, one of them isn't indivisible.
Well, one is defining it as not
Okay,
indivisible,
yes, exactly.
as not
because it-
divisible.
Because it loses all its chemical properties.
The properties studied in the sphere of chemistry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
chemical atoms exist. They are atoms of elements. Physical atoms aren't atoms by definition. We don't know what the smallest particle is. We've never found it yet.
hmm We do have suggestions, but we don't necessarily know for sure.
You say we haven't found the smallest particles.
Mhm.
Correct.
Why?
Because we named atom when we thought we had, and then we discovered smaller ones.
Do you
And
not
we think that might
accept-
happen again.
Do you not accept that quarks and leptons and such are not the smallest particles?
Well, then we
Yes,
have like
but we-
things like photons and whatnot, and we don't
And
even know.
I
Yeah, and
understand that.
How do you know that there's not going to be more smaller ones? Because we already called it atom several levels too soon.
I'm just asking you, do you accept that quarks and leptons are the smallest
Yes.
particles?
No, they're the smallest particles we know of. They're not the smallest particles in general. We don't know that.
Well, you don't know in general, but
That's the point. We don't know, and there's no assume that we do.
I mean, that's why we
There
call them
isn't.
quanta,
There's
right?
a good reason. There's a good reason to assume that we don't, which is that we've been wrong before.
So when we find smaller particles, when we find the constituent particles or pieces of any quark, you're going to complain, and we're going to say quantum mechanics.
No, I'm going to say
It's in fact-
unless you can explain why those are the smallest particle, I don't accept that assertion, and that is a valid physical thing to say.
I mean, don't you object to the term quantum mechanics?
No, why?
Because it might not be the smallest thing
No, but quantum mechanics just refers to the mechanics of the small.
of the smallest.
Of the
No, of the
quantifiable.
small. Yeah, of the small quantifiable.
It means smallest.
Okay, it doesn't. It means as small as we can get.
Is that what it means?
Yes, that's what quantify means. It means measure.
So in quantum physics, they say there is a minimum amount of energy that can exist in a minimum amount of space. If that makes sense. So, like for example, there's a Planck length. There's nothing that we have observed that can exhibit a length smaller than the Planck length.
And so you might say we could call that an atom of space, and I'd say maybe we should just hold up until we can explain why it's the smallest one, rather than jumping the gun.
That's actually reasonable. But
Because atom doesn't seem appropriate for what we used it for in physics. It doesn't fit. It's illogical.
So if we are capable of proving that the Planck length somehow is the smallest length and we have a reason for it, then we could say it is an atom of length.
Yes,
But we're still not unsure.
correct.
Yeah, nobody's ever going to call it an atom of length.
Why not?
It's just a prediction.
Well, it's more appropriate than what we use atom for currently.
Not going to happen though, I don't think.
Okay, so I would actually assume that we would use another term that has similar etymology.
I would agree with that.
It's gonna be named after some guy. It's gonna be called a Planck length.
Half a Planck length.
Oh shit. I mean, whoever discovers it, it'll be called whatever that length.
That's not necessarily true.
I mean, it seems how like constants and metrics are kind of done in physics nowadays.
That's only because they tend not to be recognized when the person's alive. If a person's alive, then they usually get to name it themselves.
Thank you for listening. Like, share, subscribe, and join us in the Nameless Debates Discord. We hope to see you there.